Gnocchi boards. I'm having a little trouble here. How can I ask you to be interested in a build that I'm not really that interested in? I guess I'll just have to try to make it interesting, or at least entertaining. Here goes nothing. What is gnocchi? It's an Italian dish. It's kind of like pasta, but it's not pasta. It's a little dumpling. Our family's always made them out of potato, though I'm reading that you can make them out of other things too. I won't go into much more detail than that. I will say though, if you've never had them, go do yourself a favor. They're good. So this is a video about making gnocchi boards. Well, I guess it's about that and about family. Let's go to the beginning. Or at least as far back as I care to trace it. On my mom's side of the family, my great-grandma, or as I called her, Nunny, was the first generation to be born in America. She was born in 1914. She was the oldest, I think, of 6 or 8 or 19 or let's just say a butt ton of kids. They were Catholic, and DTF apparently. So what does a video about making gnocchi boards have to do with family? This is my Nunny's littlest sister, Aunt Sarah. She's actually my great-great-aunt. She's my son's great-great-great-aunt. That sounds kind of stupid to say. By the way, if you're a genealogy expert chomping at the bit to correct me, save it. I'm perfectly fine living the rest of my life being wrong about this and never knowing. So Aunt Sarah recently turned 90, and this summer a bunch of us converged at my parents' house to celebrate. Food is a big part of any culture, and Italians are no exception. At the party we had stuffed peppers, Italian beef sandwiches, pasta salad, some chicken. Notice anything conspicuously missing from the list? Okay, so this is where gnocchi boards come in. My mom thought it would be fun if I made some to give out to a bunch of her cousins at the party. She asked if I could make 20. She settled for 10. Alright, let's get into some technical bits about actually making these. To draw out the shape of the handles, it was kind of half precise and half eyeballed. I made some basic marks to ensure that I would hit a few desired dimensions, but the curves were a bit more freehand. Over at the bandsaw, I used my marks to make some straight cuts to get the handle to the proper width. Then I very roughly cleared out the curves, staying pretty far back from the line I had drawn. My bandsaw blade is too thick to make this tight of a curve, so I knew I'd be finishing it off on the sander. I don't have a spindle sander, but the end of my edge sander seemed to work. A spindle sander would be a little easier and safer though. With one of the handles complete, I traced its shape onto all of my blanks so that I could rough them out at the bandsaw. Next I used a pattern routing bit to duplicate the handle shape 9 more times. If I had to do it again, I think I'd have skipped this step and just refined all of the handles on the sander. They wouldn't have been as identical, but it really isn't important that they be identical in this instance, and I think it actually would have been quicker. Now onto the actual business end of the board. I really didn't know how deep or wide these grooves should be, so I kind of just took a stab at it. I looked at a few boards in person and online, and from what I gathered, it isn't much of a science. Pretty much any ridged surface seems to work. In fact, from what I've heard, some people don't even roll their gnocchi. They just cook them up as little pillows. F***ing animals. Anyway, thank God for the Comedy Bang Bang podcast, because this was a long, repetitive process. 10 boards, 15 grooves in each board, 2 passes for each groove. I'm no mathematician, but if my calculations are correct, that's, 152 passes. That's 8,397 cuts. You can fact check that. Before I'd cut out the handles and grooves, and these guys were just little baby blanks, I mortised out a spot for a domino. A little something that we here in the business like to call planning ahead. Jargon aside, this made clamping quicker and stronger since this is an end grain to end grain joint, not the strongest. Finally, I rounded over all the sharp edges to make holding the board more comfortable. This is a food-safe finish. I think it was called Salad Bowl Finish by a company called Tried and True. I'm guessing it's probably true that food is a big part of every family. I know it is for mine, especially when extended family gets involved. Put it this way, a common topic of conversation at the lunch table is what to eat for dinner. It's probably not the healthiest way to live your life 365 days a year, but it's fine to indulge and pig out every once in a while. So in my family, when you get together, you cook. Often that entails spending a bunch of time doing something really laborious that, when you think about it logically, doesn't seem like the smartest use of your time. 3 hours of work for 30 minutes of enjoyment? But that's the thing. If you're with the right people, the whole 3 hours and 30 minutes can be enjoyable. So what does a video about making gnocchi boards have to do with family? Everything. Special thanks goes out to my Patreon supporters. You're all a big part of what makes doing this worthwhile. Click on the link in the description to learn more about how you can support the show too. See you next time.